Welcome to the Educating Differently podcast, explore education in all its forms. And today with us is Caroline Fernandez. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
All right, so Caroline, you are a Canadian children's author. You have written many books, I think a total of 17, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
That's right, it's
awesome.
17.
A novel series called Ash Baz, is that correct? And also one of your award-winning novels, Plague Thieves.
So I write again across many different genres. I have picture books, which have a lot of STEM in them. I have nonfiction books, which have STEM and history. I'm really attracted towards STEM and history. My Ash and Baz chapter books are for children who are they're past doing picture books and they're able to start to read independently on their own, or someone is reading with them. And then the middle grade, and then now I'm going into middle grade. So there's a wide spectrum.
Okay, great. So your Ash and Baz is for, like, I would say, if I would want to give an age range for maybe 8 or even before, actually, maybe anywhere. Oh, yes.
This month.
Yes.
So the publisher age range and the age range you'll see like at bookstores is grades 1 to 3. So that would be ages 6 to 9. However, since COVID and everybody was learning from home, a lot of kids who were in grades 1 to 3 did not learn to read as successfully as they could have being in a classroom setting. So now there's a new genre of books that are coming out called high-low, which is high interest, low vocabulary, to help those kids who are now going into middle grade who are struggling with reading because they didn't get the foundations they needed previously, or they just have learning difficulties. And so these books they are grade 1 to 3. They could go older depending on the struggle of readers. So
Okay.
if an older reader wants a high interest book, but they need a low vocabulary, short sentence structure, it would also work for them as well.
Okay. High interest, you mean by content, like topic? Okay.
Exactly. A page turner that will keep because when a child is, getting up to grades 5, 6, and 7, they don't want to read about the dog across the street. They want
Yes.
they want to be a little bit more invested in a story, but if their reading level isn't at class level, they're going to get frustrated and have a tough time with it. So those books are becoming more and more popular, partly because of COVID and partly because the world today, not everybody learns to read at the same
For sure.
frequency, and you don't want to leave anybody behind.
For sure. That's a great. Actually, I haven't heard about the high-low types of books, but yeah, that actually is a great, because as a teacher myself, we do notice in a school setting that children that actually even reach middle school or even high school have a lot of learning difficulties, reading and writing difficulties. So it can actually evolve, like, even into adulthood sometimes, whereas you see children that graduate but still have a very low level of reading skills,
And it turns into a lifelong literacy struggle for them because they never begin to catch up. There is a book series. Orca is a publisher here in Canada, and they have a whole series of different high-low books by different authors,
Okay.
specific for those readers who are older but having trouble with reading.
Okay, great. Then good to know. Thank you so much. So let's just, if you don't mind, talk a little bit about you. So get to know a little bit about your back. Did your writing journey begin, and how did you get into writing and as an author?
So I've always wanted to be an author ever since I was a little kid. I loved reading. I loved going into bookstores. So it definitely started from when I was a kid. But when I went through university, I had jobs after university. But when I became a mom, funny enough, I was a stay-at-home mom with my two daughters. I have 3 kids altogether, but at the time, 2 daughters. And I had a moment of, if I don't start writing a book, I will never start writing a book, because now I'm a mom. And in my mind, I was like, I'm never going to have time to myself ever again.
Yes,
Which is it's not realistic. Like, you do have time after you make
I
it.
can understand the feeling, but yes,
But
being a young mom.
as a new mom, I was like, this is it. I'm never gonna. And so I started blogging. So I was a mom blogger for a really long time, writing about kids' activities because that's what I did every day. But at the time, you needed a portfolio in order to pitch to magazines, and I had this idea that I would start blogging, build a portfolio, pitch to magazine, pitch to a book publisher, and I would go up
Okay.
the ladder that way. And that's in fact what I did. It worked out really well in that I built my own experience during that time, basically. And so my first book is called Boredom Busters, and it's an activity book for kids. Fun, like simple recipes, simple art activities. But
Okay.
I put in what's that boxes in each of them of like there was an art activity about coffee filters. I was like, who invented coffee filter? Well, a lady named Melita,
Mm-hmm.
because she didn't like she took her kids' school paper and filtered the coffee through it because she didn't like the taste of her coffee. And that is where the Melita company actually comes from. So, and then from that, I started, I went on my publishing career to write 17 books, but it really came from a self-starting drive of I need to do this for me. But at the same time, I was writing about things that I was doing day to day with my kids.
Okay.
And
So,
and as an aside, I am English Canadian. My
mhm.
husband is francophone from France. Our kids are bilingual, so that was also a big thing in our lives of raising bilingual kids with two different cultures, really. And that there's a little bits of that in my writing as well,
Okay.
where I try to put beyond my own experience.
I see. I see. So you say you wanted to begin a write, like you always wanted to be a writer. Did your content though? Because I guess it's when you had kids that you decide, not that you decided, but you had maybe a clear path on what to write about. Because you decided to write about activities that you were doing daily with your children. And again, I'm going to bounce back onto teaching as my experience because that's basically what we do. We take activities that we are accustomed to in our everyday lives and we reproduce that. So is that when you had this idea of like what to write about, or did you always know the topics that you wanted to bring on the table?
That's a good question. Honestly, at the beginning, writing about kids' activities and recipes was accessible to me because that is what I did every day. And it was also
Hmm.
something that it was like a tangible plan of this week, I'm going to try A, B, and C. I'll get the supplies for A, B, and C. We're going to do it. And then I'm going to write about it. And also, when you're starting writing, and if anybody wants to start writing, brainstorming and plotting are really big parts of it. It's part of how you organize your information. And when you think about writing a recipe, that's a really accessible way to write because you're starting with a title and then you're writing directions and you're writing ingredients and you're writing the 1, 2, 3 steps and here's the outcome. And
Hmm.
it's a very formulaic way of writing, and there's creativity to it, but there's not creativity to it because you're following instructions, and that's actually in core curriculum now here in Canada, and I think probably in the United States as well. Is in literacy, can you read and follow the steps
The
of
direction.
an activity? And that important also in classrooms as well. So that's one of the reasons why my first book was well received, was because it was something that teachers and parents could do at home with their kids. It wasn't just a bedtime storybook, but it
Hmm.
was okay, let's do the activity. You read this line, I'll read this line. What are we supposed to do next? It created
Hmm.
discussions and questions. And for me, it was a really good way. And also, when you're writing a recipe or an activity, quite short. I was writing during nap time. And so I could, like, it didn't even occur to me to like try and write a novel at that point because I didn't have time to write a novel. I didn't have the
Hmm.
bandwidth to write a novel, but I could write an activity or a recipe during a nap time and publish it on, like, this is the days where you had Blogger and WordPress and you
Yeah.
could just self-publish it, and then there it is out in the world.
Hmm.
And it was just highly recommend if anybody wants to start writing, start a blog because
Yeah.
it gives you a lot of ownership, and if you don't like it, you can delete it.
That's true. That's true.
Like easy to claw back stuff you don't really that doesn't pan out well for you.
Yes. And it's
Yeah.
awesome because like what I really appreciate in your story pretty much is the fact that your books are adequately suited for either parents but also teachers because it's an activity book, but an activity book that, like you say, is accessible to moms that have or don't have time as well, because that is something that we have to consider, but also teachers that are in lack of resource, which is a very good project in my opinion, this educational aspect to writing that not only to enhance reading skills, comprehension skills, but also giving yourself something to actually do you know?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
It's really amazing, really, that you're able to grow that like that as well.
And I think that's also the business of books these days
Mhm,
is, especially for children, what added value can you bring to it?
mhm.
What extra discussion can you have with the adult in the room who are reading with the kid? How can you make it a better experience for them in all the ways?
That's true, that's true. And it comes again to my second question, which would be, did you always know you wanted to write for this age range, or, did it just kind of spontaneously, to that?
Yeah, no, yeah, there was just an evolution. I am a very big planner, but I did not plan my career. And you just never know what's
Yes,
going to
that's
sell
true.
and what's going to be picked up. But I went from my nonfiction book to my next book after that was a picture book. And that was a really weird experience because I queried it to one publisher here in Canada and they really liked it and they kept it for a year waiting. Maybe next month we're really interested in it. We're going to have a meeting about it. And for a year they kept it. And then finally they said, after a year, it's not really for us. And then the next week I went to a yoga class and my yoga teacher was like, "Oh, I have a student who's a publisher. I told them that you have a blog and review kids' books. Could you review these for her?" And I'm like, "I can, but I actually happen to have a manuscript." I sent it to we did a change. I took her book. I
Yeah.
gave her my manuscript. And a week later, I had a contract for that book
Wow.
after waiting a year with another publisher. There's no planning. Who knew that my yoga
Mhm.
teacher would connect me with a publisher? There's no reason for that.
That's true.
So yeah, it was just total evolution on its own path.
I think a key part of actually succeeding is to never, maybe to never lose hope or to never give up or keep pushing through because when we stop is really when nothing really
Mhm.
happens after that.
Yeah, that's true. And that's it. Like if you don't start writing a book, you're never going to write a book because no one
Mhm.
is ever going to send you a magic email saying, "I would really like to publish your book." Like you have
Yes.
to write it. You have to write it before it gets published. So,
For sure.
yeah.
Okay, great. And I also know that some of your books have a more, are more fact driven or more history driven and science driven.
Mhm.
Did that come afterwards also, or what was your inspiration for those?
Yeah, so, I guess my first science book was, my dinosaur series. It's called The Adventures of Grammosaurus, and my publisher at that time, who had published my previous picture book, said, "I would like an intergenerational story
Okay.
with dinosaurs in it."
Okay.
And I said that in my mind, I'm like, "That's great, but having grandparents and dinosaurs is kind of ageism, and we don't wanna send that message to children. Any adult can be a dinosaur." So I created a story about a grandma who every time she sneezed, she turned into a different dinosaur.
Okay.
And she was, when you go out with kids and there's always a runner, a kid who like just takes off and
Yes.
unreliable. Well, in this circumstance, it is the grandma who is unreliable and keeps
Okay.
hiding. And the grandkids are, "Hey, you got to stay with us. We're on a school
Oh, I
field
see.
trip." So there's a role reversal. Anyway,
Mhm.
so that was my first science book, and what I did was for each time she turned into a dinosaur, I had the kids observe 3 dinosaur features to each time she was in a dinosaur. So a physical or a behavioral way that she was acting like a different dinosaur. And so I had to do a ton of research on that. I was a big dinosaur fan for a long time. And after that, I went into my Ash and Baz series, which highlight real life women in STEM who did
Mhm.
amazing things. But in the history book, generally the men who get all the
Yes,
spotlight.
for
And there are a
sure.
lot of unrepresented women in history who excelled in STEM.
Yes.
And I thought it was a good time to feature them as like mini biographies. But what I really like about that series in particular is the two characters at the beginning, Ash and Baz, are faced with a class challenge. And that class challenge ties in with a woman who's featured in the book. So, for example, the last book, Ash and
Yes.
Baz meet Sylvia Earle. Sylvia Earle was a fossil finder in England up there.
Yes.
And the class challenge at the beginning of the book is kids have to draw a skeleton of fossil, so be it a leaf or a bug or a dinosaur, out of dry pasta shape,
Okay.
which is an easy, accessible grade 1 to 3 core curriculum type of activity
Yes, for
that,
sure.
so the kids can read the book, find out about who Mary Anning is, but then they can get their dry pasta out and like outline a dinosaur fossil. And so it's hands on. And I like that in each of the book, you can read them in sequence or you can read them standalone. There will be 7 books in the series,
Okay.
and each one has a STEM activity that
Okay.
is low budget that kids can do at home
Mhm.
or in the
Mhm.
class. And I think it's a nice way to reinforce what you're reading.
Okay.
and do something fun too. Art
Yeah.
activity is always fun.
It helps to also understand, I don't know, being very visual learner myself, actually manipulating objects and using your senses to do an activity helps you understand, especially for children, and especially for young children. So that is actually a very cool feature where you can apply what it is you read pretty
Mhm.
much. So it's a novel, but it's also an activity book in the same book, right?
Exactly, and I think reading well, kids have so many competitions for reading right now because, there's computers in the classroom and there's smart boards, and picking up a paper book might not be as the most exciting way to learn. I think it is, but kids, it doesn't make sounds, there are no gold stars that are bleeping at the end. And so having a hands-on component to it can certainly
Mhm.
make it more tactile for kids who have trouble just sitting in page.
That is an issue that we do face nowadays. Kids read less and less. And I remember you saying that you used to love reading when you were younger. Same here, because we didn't have the phone or the tablet or the computer. So reading was, part of your childhood. But nowadays it is.
It translates into your everyday posture as well, because when you're on a computer or you're on your tablet, and I'm sure kids have this in the classroom, they're leaning in all the
Yes,
time. Whereas when you've got a paper book, normally you're leaning back. And so
that's true.
it changes your posture and also like your thinking of how, relaxing your mind versus, okay, I'm super concentrating right now.
Yes, yes.
No, now I'm actually relaxing and I can like let go of, you know,
Hmm.
competitive
All the
things because this
exterior.
is
Yeah,
just
yeah,
about
yeah.
me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you really go into your own world. I think in both cases you really go into your own world, but one has, different kind of benefits than the other. But yeah,
Mhm.
that is true. It is something that you're competing against because we're advancing in a time and age where books can easily become obsolete, and it's very hard to push through. I think though there is more and more awareness, if I would say, on the negative aspects of screens and all this, a little bit more slowly getting there. So I think books are still number one. I want to just also, like, because we're on the topic, you talk a lot about STEM. I know in France at least it's not a concept, it's not really a concept that we employ in the classroom, we use
Mhm.
in the classroom. Did you want to just maybe develop on the specifics of STEM activities?
What STEM is. So there's STEM and there's also STEAM. Both
Okay.
are kind of interchangeable. STEM, obviously, it's science, technology, engineering, and math. STEAM is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math.
Okay.
So they're very complementary, and it's basically including those elements within an activity. So, a STEM activity can be building a volcano. As I'm just going to go through my Ash and Baz books because those are the
Yes,
STEM
yes, for sure.
activities I know offhand. It's creating a STEM activity is creating a pasta shape, a dinosaur pasta shape, building a volcano, code breaking,
Okay.
with that being secret messages and alpha and numeric code.
Okay.
It is navigating a map is STEM because that's engineering. How do
Yeah.
you get in my first book, it's about a rocket scientist. And so the STEM activity is building a paper rocket. And how do you power a paper rocket?
Activity.
You blow through the straw and it makes the rocket fly. If you've ever been to a restaurant and kids take their paper and throw their paper, that's basically a paper rocket. And it's the elements of a rocket. And so
Okay.
it's using science, technology, engineering, arts. Arts would be the reading
Hmm.
of the activity, and math. And it's a very hot learning methodology in Canada and the United States because STEM has, well, especially for girls, it has not been an attractive course of education. For a long time, there weren't that many kids going after, or girls specifically, going after engineering and math. And
Okay.
so STEM learning for girls was very encouraged, in the early 2000s in order
Yes.
to get more girls interested in the maths and engineerings and
Okay.
sciences.
Okay. Awesome. Yes, because again, I know the concept, but we don't really apply. And I know in Canada that we usually apply it. Well, we apply STEM activities a lot in kindergarten,
Mhm.
classrooms. Yeah, even middle school. Actually, I don't know so much about high school, but I know
Yeah.
the younger ages for sure. And it is a great learning method because it's very tangible, whereas the children can actually, like I said, being visual learners, and they can actually use their senses to apply any kind of notion. So I think we use that in some kind of way here, but it's not put in this nice package.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's interesting here. There are a lot of classrooms that have informal STEM corners, and they're called maker space. So maker space, and parents donate empty, paper tubes from toilet paper rolls and cardboard rolls, and like you cut up pieces of paper and you put like popsicle sticks, and it's a free space where kids can go and build. And it's not like Lego where you're building to a design. It's
Hmm.
what can you build?
Okay. Yeah,
Are
so you
you
need to your
and
imagination, your creation.
what can you engineer? And so it's showing recycling, and it's showing free form creativity engineering of what can you build out of reusable items.
Mhm.
And it's a great way and a lot of schools and libraries have them in their classrooms as like it's a downtime, but it's also a hands-on learning corner as well.
For sure, for sure. Oh, that's a nice concept. I haven't seen any of those or witnessed those here at least. It's a
Mhm.
really cool concept because yeah, like you said, we're using recycling, so we're not actually buying anything. It's not extra cost to the teacher or the parent. And as a downtime activity where the kid can no longer receive, I would say, a very scholar teaching, then they would
Yeah.
have that to do as downtime. That's
Yeah.
really nice concept. Really
And
nice.
it's great that it's not formal and there's not a success component to it.
Hmm.
It's not
Yes,
gonna be graded, it can be whatever, and if the child this is a bridge, but it doesn't look like a bridge, still a bridge to that child, and,
that's true.
and that's a wonderful thing because they have created something.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. For sure, for sure, for sure. We have a long way to go
I know, yes.
to bring to have this very optimized, but it's slowly getting there though, honestly.
Yeah,
I see a lot of now that I'm really in the realm of, different kinds of teaching and different methods that I see that there's a lot of parents and teachers and programs that are out there that people just simply just don't know about.
yeah,
Uh, you know, that's another issue.
yeah.
And I want to just come back onto while we're talking about schools. You do intervene in schools as well?
I do school presentations.
School presentations. Okay. Can you maybe just tell us a little bit how you conduct your presentations and the topics you talk about?
Absolutely. So, but it depends on, of course, what age range I'm going into and what books. Most recently pulled up another book. This is my middle grade book, and
Okay.
it's called Plague Thieves. It came out last year in 2025, and it's been nominated for a few awards this year. And so this is the book that I'm mostly getting into doing invitations for present. Now, the difference between reading a middle grade book versus like a picture book is
Yes.
a picture book is wonderful. You just read aloud, you show the pictures, you enjoy the time together, and it's wonderful. With a middle grade book, it's different, A, because there's no pictures, and B, because the concepts are generally a little thicker for kids. And so, specifically for the Plague Thieves book, when I go in and do presentations, I will do an excerpt of a reading, usually at the beginning, just in case those kids who haven't read the whole book
Okay.
so that they can be included. And then we go into like trivia about the historical facts that I've put in the book. And do you know about this or that, or why the plague doctor wore a mask? And
Hmm.
it's so funny because so many kids today know about plague doctor's mask because it's a big Halloween thing here in North
Yes.
America. And
Yes.
so I was surprised at my first I thought I was gonna be teaching these kids about the plague doctor mask and the benefits, and they were actually the ones who were like I was like, "Yes, you're right about that fact. Yes, you're right about that fact." And they could just, like, spill out all the stuff. And so for the middle grade book, the presentations are a lot more discussion based. And we're
Okay.
talking about history, and we're talking about facts from the book, and we're talking about how did you like the characters and who are your favorite characters. And as the author, I have Easter eggs within the book. And
Oh,
so we
yes.
talk about would you like to know some Easter eggs that are in the book? And
Hmm.
then we usually play a game at the end, and I leave activity pages.
Okay.
Which again, this goes back to me being a mom thinking you need to like leave a loot bag for a kid after a birthday party. Here's some, and also here's some hands-on activities that you could do. And so I have, because it's the plague, it's can you escape the plague? And it's a maze that they have to do.
Okay.
And I also
Okay.
have a word search with all the like the keywords of plague, London Bridge, and some of the characters' names.
Okay.
So, and where like the premise of this is thieves oil, which is a real essential oil.
Hmm.
And there was a folklore that this essential oil helped people during the plague. And so that's tying that in as well. So that presentation, it goes into all of that. And then we do a 15-minute question and answer, which generally doesn't always fall on the book. It falls a lot into what's your favorite book? Who's your favorite character? Have you seen this Marvel movie? And they always spin off. And somebody will always, a kid will always ask, how old are you? That's always they ask that. But it's interesting. I like the middle grade presentations, kind of my favorite,
Okay.
because they're really good discussions. And we get into dissecting what it is. How do you write a book? How do you get your ideas? Where do you research? All the things that you kind of would ever want to ask an author about just books in general.
In
Because
general.
and I've talked to other authors about it, and really we're role modeling what a career is to them because
Yes.
a lot of kids only know what mom and dad do, or they know what teachers do because that's their experience in looking at careers. And here
Hmm.
you are bringing in a whole new career of
Hmm.
like they're surrounded by books, but how does someone write one? Like that's
Hmm.
a career that's not within their experience. So, yeah.
That's amazing because, again, yes, you're actually teaching a class really because you're learning about history and it can be a very fun experience. It doesn't always have to be proof of that is your presentation doesn't always have to be very okay, sit down, let's do an exercise, here's the lesson, uh write down. It can just be a discussion, where an actual individual is not, again, the point of view of a child is still a point of view. It still matters. And this kind of authority aspect between the teacher and the students kind of just dissipates, doesn't even exist anymore because we're just talking person to person. And that's an amazing thing, really.
And like you said, it's not they're different learners, and having an audio learner and a visual learner, an author presentation really lends itself to that because
Hmm.
you're connecting on not a school book level or an exam level. You're connecting more person to person.
Yes, for sure, for sure. And your activities, I just want to come back to the activities that you propose afterwards. Are those available on your website or is it only when you come in and do the
That's a
presentation?
good I actually don't have them on my website, but that's a really good idea because I could totally
Okay.
put them up there. So
Just yeah.
as of today, yes, they will be there. I put them on my Instagram sometimes
Okay.
of like here's an example of my stuff, but it's
Okay.
certainly not it's certainly I share them with whoever. If you email me, I send them out because it's super easy. And I've done a presentation, a really big presentation for hundreds and hundreds of kids, and they like the presentation was okay, but the activity pages were really the rock star of the presentation
Really?
because it gave kids something to do that they could kind of like hunker down and they enjoyed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay, yeah, because just because I'm coming back again to it, we have book studies in class.
Mhm.
Where we select a book on the trimester or even on the school year, and the kids have they have to read it, and then would provide activities or discussions about the book afterwards. So I know a few books who had to go. I had a hard time, at least, finding the resources that are associated with the book. But some do, some have, and that's why I'm asking. I think since you do it already
Yeah,
in
yeah.
your presentation, I think it'll be a good resource, not only for teachers but parents, students, everyone really.
And then another interesting thing that some authors do, funnily enough, for my Plague Thieves book, I had like a whole chapter appendix on did you know about this? Did you know about that?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it couldn't make it into the book because the
Okay.
book was getting too long. And so they took it out, but it is available as a teacher's guide. But some authors and some of the books specifically lend themselves to book tasting, where if there are foods or drink in the book, classes can make them together. And then they have like a lunchtime menu of like, if you're reading Alice in Wonderland, you make cookies that are very small and you make a drink that is very big. And then as you read a chapter, you're eating and drinking along with the book. And so that's a different
Mm.
way to digest a book in a fun, like, it's
In a
just
fun
something
way.
different.
Wow, it's just so many aspects that you can include in that have an educational, turnover on just a book. I mean, it can appear as just a book, but it actually isn't just a book. It's many many things. It's
Yeah, reading comes in very different form.
and it comes back to like the Harry Potter books, obviously are huge, but yeah, they
Mhm.
do have the tasting, with the butter
Butter
beer or the.
butter beer and the frogs and the beans and yeah.
That's true. That's true.
It's
That's
a
a
fun way,
very
or even
wonderful.
like, the board book, The Very Hungry Caterpillar by
Yeah.
Eric Carle.
Yes,
Let's
for
do
sure.
that. Like, let's eat our cucumbers. Like,
For
let's eat a rainbow
sure.
and see where it goes. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's really cool. Really cool. Do you also are, well, not part of, but I was researching a little bit on your website, and I saw the Ontario teachers and sorry, not teachers, writers in a school
So I
program.
was That
You
is
just
that's a program in Canada
in,
for people who writers who are members of the Writers Union of Canada, and they will help fund that organization will help fund writers' visits into schools. They
okay.
also run a service called Authors Booking Service, and it's over 100 Canadian authors and illustrators who will visit readers in person or virtually
Okay.
all over. And that way, it's a way to not every author or illustrator has their own website, but it's an easy way for educators to connect with them to say,
Okay.
can you come visit my readers
Okay.
and learn about, and it's specifically if you're looking for like a theme, a day of significance, like Black History Month or
Yes.
Orange Shirt Day here in Canada or Indigenous voices or, something about friendship or something about bullying.
Okay.
It's an easy way to find a professional author. 'Cause there are lots of authors out there, but not all of them are professional. Some are just, they do
Amateur.
it they do amateur, exactly. I was gonna say they do it on the weekend, like, they put a book up on Amazon on a weekend, and then all of a sudden they're a published
Yeah,
author. They are, but it's a different type of published author,
for sure.
than a professional who's put their time into being edited and put their book out there. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. So you run this service? Have you created this service?
I did not create it. It was
Okay.
created in 2008 by, 2 very talented Canadian authors, and I was on the roster, and they wanted to retire, and they asked me to take over.
Because again, that is something that we talk about in this podcast a lot is the missing link, in my opinion, that's not broadcast enough between teachers, parents, and students. Find, at least in my experience, I find that there's a big lack of in communication and visibility, transparency, if you prefer, because all these parties and authors now as well, because all these parties contribute to one same objective and goal, which is provides a learning path that will let the child flourish in
Mhm,
however they can, right?
mhm.
Best thing that you can offer to a child. And since they all contribute to the same thing, I really find it absurd that there's no link between them. Like there's no established link. So this service that you provide where educators can reach out to professionals and say, hey, come in my class, I want to do a study or a group session or something like that. It's really great, great work. Like honestly, congratulations on that one.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
for your books as well.
And I think it's also important to say that not every student has the same path, because
That
paths
is
can be so different depending on the learner, and they need to be supported and set up for success on their, however curvy their path is going to be along with them on the curves. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Yes, not every student has the same background. They don't all come from the same places, same cultures. There's many factors that can affect a child learning a course. It's up to us as guides, I would say, not really teachers, but like more guides, to help them achieve whatever it is they want to achieve. And that's the whole goal of this podcast, really, is that.
Mhm, mhm.
And I just want to come back also because you mentioned way at the beginning that your children are bilingual, coming from a mixed marriage, and I just want to ask: are your books translated in French, or is that something that we're looking forward to?
So to get a book translated is really, well, it's really difficult because the person who publishes you doesn't translate you. They have to sell your book to somebody else to translate your book.
I see.
So the only book, this book, it's called Hide and Seek Wild Animal Groups in North America. It is being translated into French, and it will be my first book that's in
Wow.
French. And it's going to be called Cash Cash.
Cash, cash.
Uh,
Okay.
so I think it's out now. I haven't seen it myself. This is it, and again, when we look at book, like so pretty. And
Yes.
this book is the story of a monarch butterfly trying to find its place in the world and its
Okay.
group. And it's going through, I plotted out the North American migration of butterflies who go from Canada through the US into Mexico. So
Okay.
it's all of the animals that that butterfly will find along its flight route. And it's
Wow.
looking at and again, literacy, because I'm a nerd. It goes into the common groups of the group. So it's like a scourge of mosquitoes, a shoal of bass. So that's
Okay.
their
Okay.
their family names.
So you're
So
learning vocabulary as well, then.
yeah, exactly. And you know what? As an adult, even this is not like it's not common. Like a pod of orcas, a bob of seals. Like it's not it's cool. But not like even parents will be learning as they read through. And so
It's something to remember. Yeah.
this is my first book that will be in French.
Okay.
So that's exciting, super
Okay.
exciting. And it's funny because my kids, as a parent, and also being I am not bilingual. I'm functional. I can
Mm-hmm.
defend myself in a French conversation. I can ask for questions and get directions and stuff, but I am not bilingual. So it was very important to me to offer English books and French books to my kids
Yes.
and allow them to choose what they wanted, but also some days we're like, no, today's a French day. We're doing French stuff
Okay.
to reinforce and support. And my kids, Toronto is mainly an English school, English city. My kids went to French school
In Toronto. Okay.
in Toronto because we really wanted to reinforce having two languages and being able to flip back and forth. And they can
Yes.
flip back and forth way better than I ever will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also interesting. My husband is French. I'm English. The school was mostly Quebecois Acadian teachers
Okay.
because
Yes.
that's what's available. And it's interesting with learning strategies. One day a paper came home and it said, Les enfants ont besoin d'emmener des clignotines demain.
Okay.
And as an Anglophone, I'm like, I can read that.
Okay.
Something has to come to school tomorrow. I went to my
But
husband,
what?
what is a clignotine? Because I don't know this word. And he's like, That's not a word." I'm like, "It is a word, and it's something we have to bring tomorrow." And so I went to my kids, and I'm like, "What does this mean?" And my kids are like, "Well, I don't know." And I'm like, "But didn't you talk about it in school?" "No." And I'm like, "Okay, mom doesn't know what this is." And so I had to like start like calling other parents. What am I supposed to bring tomorrow? And as
Yeah.
it turns out, do you know what a grignotin is?
No.
It's exhibit.
Is it like a snack?
It's a snack.
Okay.
It's a
Because
snack.
the word is, yeah, no, that's not a word. But you're dealing with the French Canadian now, which is also a different thing. It's not
Right?
the French, but we hear the root word grignoter, which
That's
is
it.
snack.
That's
And
it.
so I'm assuming it's a grignotin. It's a
That's
snack.
exactly it. And it's so interesting in the way languages go and literacy. Like this was a word that they're using in school, and different dialects will impact different things. But
Definitely.
I was also in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm role modeling to my kids. Adults don't know everything.
No,
And
they don't.
it's okay to ask questions, and it's okay to say, I don't to raise your hand and say, I don't understand.
Mhm.
And I think that's really important for parents and teachers to be like, you know what? It's important to ask questions. And
Mhm.
being vulnerable about your learning is not a weakness. It's okay to be like, we got to work together to figure out what this word is. Like, you know,
Definite definitely.
um,
Like you said, even in your presentations, a lot of the time, like the kids know a lot of information that you might not even know or haven't come across yet. And that's why this hierarchy of, a teacher up here and students down here doesn't really make any sense because again, you don't know the background of these. They might be much more, of an expert in a certain domain than you are. We're
mhm,
not almighty. We're not.
mhm.
I think being humble is a very big key to whether it be parenting or anything related to children, really.
Yeah.
But yes. Well, I'm glad to hear that your book has been, well, one is being translated, and
Mhm.
I don't know for the rest, but
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
I'm bilingual, so it might not really affect me, but I would love to be able to use these in classes. That would be a great resource. Again, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just wanna finish with if you have any message. You already gave a lot of messages and a lot of great tips and keys, but a message for teachers or parents even or students, really.
I think when it comes to literacy, I think it's really important for adults to role model reading and not just reading for information, but reading for pleasure. And I think it's really important, to have class reads. And every Friday, we're going to read a chapter of a book. And
Mhm,
it's not like it's part of the routine, and it's not like a privilege, and it's not a récompense because you guys have been good this week. This is what we do because reading for pleasure is important.
mhm,
And I think for adults, I think it's really important to have bedtime reading and with your child and to
mhm,
take that time of quiet time. I know specifically as a parent, I really appreciated the turning off the TV and we're going to read before bed. It's a way to connect. It's a way to have, quiet time together. But I also think it's really important on like a Sunday afternoon mom and dad pick up a book and we're reading and
yes.
the kids might be playing or something because I think it's important for kids to see adults reading
Mhm,
as a role model of this is, it doesn't stop when you're in school and it doesn't stop when you're on the bus. It's a lifelong activity that
mhm,
it's really important for learning and for de-stressing and for having imagination.
mhm,
And I think that role modeling reading is really important, and
mhm.
I'm very enthusiastic about everybody should just read more.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I'm a bookworm myself, so I totally agree.
Mhm, mhm.
And I just want to like just reflect about on that because I hear a lot of parents that get frustrated with children on their phones or children not reading enough or not playing outside enough or not going out enough. They're always on video games or whatnot. But when I analyze the posture of the adults in their home, the adult is on their device as well, and there is no communication or they're not outside. Like they're not actually giving the example of what it is they would like to see in their children. So even myself as a parent, sometimes I'm on my phone because you have something to do or whatnot, but then I have to take the time to realize my child is watching me now. Let me be an example and take time to do other things, right? Because we are their main, I would say their main teacher. They see us most of the times. We are like I said, the main role model. So I think it's very important to analyze our own behavior, our own way of saying things, our own way of communicating in order to be able to, you know, transmit whatever that is.
Absolutely, and it's so easy, and I'm totally guilty of it, to be like to fall into the, "Yeah, just a minute. I'll come and help you, just a minute," or, "Yeah, we'll go in just a minute."
Yes,
But you're looking at your device or you're, gonna send one more email, "Just a
hmm,
minute, and I'll do this." And
for sure.
I always and of course, we sometimes you need to send the other email. Sometimes you have to.
Yes.
But where I could not impose, but where I could impose reading, I ensured that I did in that when we were going on a plane, I
Hmm.
always had a book or a magazine or a comic book because I'm also reading is reading. It can be a comic book. It can be a graphic novel. It can be a magazine. Like, you do not need to be reading a novel to be a reader.
Yes, I agree.
But when we were going on an airplane, yes, you're going to be watching movies because we usually do really long flights when we travel. But there's something paper to read
Yes.
as of a boredom buster in case like the screen isn't working. I'm stuck
Yeah.
with you for 8 hours. What are we going to do? But also this is an opportunity that you could be reading, and
Mhm.
let's take
Seize it.
advantage of those opportunities. And
Mhm.
reading is a vacation activity. Like,
Mhm.
we don't leave that behind because we leave the house. It can
For
come
sure.
with us.
For sure.
And
Hey,
and
it's
yeah,
small. Can fit in your bag. Why not?
exactly. And then you leave it, like when we would go to France, we would leave our stuff there, leave our books there,
Mhm.
pick up new ones over there
Yeah,
and bring them with us.
for
Because
sure. For sure.
it's cost effective, it's something new, and especially raising bilingual kids, we would take English stuff there and French stuff would come back with us.
You come back for sure.
Yeah,
That's awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Caroline. And I just want to give a shout out for everyone who's listening to us to go visit your website, or carolinefernandez.ca, if I'm not mistaken.
it is, yep.
And I'm looking forward to your new books that are coming out in 2026 also.
Books,
So you have
yep,
Ash and Baz meet Sylvia Earle. That's
yes.
it's not out yet, right?
It's not out. It's coming out next spring, 2026, and I have another book that's coming out in 2026, but I just got notified that they're changing the title of that book, so it's going to be a surprise. I don't know what
Oh, you don't know what it is.
I don't know what we're gonna call it just yet. So, but it's coming out in 2026 as well.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm looking forward to that also. And again, a very big thank you for what you do. And thank you for taking the time to be a part of this podcast. It was very enlightening for me, at least.
Me
And I'm
too.
very happy to be able to, yeah,
I'm
to be
honored.
able
I
to
was honored,
broadcast.
honored.
Sorry.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. I look forward to following you, and I'm a subscriber now. So I look forward
Oh, thank
to
you so
following
much.
you on
Thank
your
you.
journey.